Alright, so this video is all about day 13 and 14 with this Mazda Speed 3, but this footage here is day 10. So if you've seen the video from day 10, we took the car out and we did some cornering and drove fast and had some fun, and then we brought it home to finish the plasti dip removal that we started on day 3, I think, and there's a video for that too. Now, moving the car in and out of the garage as we did on this day to take breaks and kind of clean it up and wash it as we removed the plasti dip. We were using gasoline to do that. You can see that in the plasti dip removal video, and that's kind of noxious stuff. So anyways, right about here I notice an engine code come up, and this is literally the moment where I saw the code. And we're going to put the code reader on it in a second. And the code reader gives us a 0303 code, which tells us that cylinder 3 is out of timing. Now usually this is some type of misfire, and usually that is caused by spark plugs. So in this video you're going to see us dig in under the hood. There's a lot to see here. So if you have a Mazda Speed 3, if you have a top mount intercooler, if you have to change spark plugs and that gives you a problem, because we do have a problem with the plugs that you'll see, this is a good video. There's the valve cover needs to come off and everything in this video. So the problem we end up having with the spark plug is that it basically blew up, and I don't know if I did that when I was removing it, or if it was a cracked plug that then broke when I tried to remove it. I don't know. Anyway, so here's the scanner, and it gives us a 0303 code.
Oops. DTC, enter, fault, scroll, P0303. Okay.
Alright, so we're under the hood, and we're going to take, well, we're disconnecting the battery, obviously. And, we're just spending some time here. You can have a look at the engine.
Take the cover off.
And just spending a bit of time here showing people, anybody that needs to know how to get the
I need a place for these things.
intercooler off.
Order, so is there a tray or something in there? Take off the intercooler cover. Okay, so looks like 12 millimeters. Nice and easy that way. You got a spot for this stuff? Yeah. Good plan. Do not come by again. Go first time.
So I try not to let it be too boring throughout the whole video, but for the purposes of continuity and for those of you who are interested, everything is here. All the footage is here. And when it takes too long or gets boring, I put it in fast forward.
Okay, so we're going to go down and loosen this hose clamp here and this hose clamp here.
So there's really nothing to this. Nobody should be worried or scared of taking their intercooler off. But then we forgot to press record when we actually took it off.
Alright, so this one looks a lot newer. So we know we've had service to this one in the past. This is number 1 because you're supposed to count from your timing chain or belt, which I know is right here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 3. This is our cylinder, which is giving us a code. So now we're going to have a look at that. We're going to.
What kind of code? Misfire code?
Yeah. 0303. Disconnect this.
So I'm being super careful with all this. I don't know when the last time anybody was under here is. I know the previous owner wasn't capable of doing this kind of stuff. So as we go, you're going to see me in and out with penetrating fluids and rust proofing. Rust proofing. Rust inhibiting fluids and things. Now here I go in, trying to remove the spark plug.
Wow. Okay, this is an old ratchet. Apparently we're gonna have to use a breaker bar. If that was him, he's late for work. Which wouldn't surprise me.
I was just gonna say. Is that shocking?
Here's my dad's old breaker, forged in USA.
Now this seemed pretty strange to me because I know the torque specs for these spark plugs is not much. It's only 10 foot-pounds.
Well, at least this didn't happen before.
There we go. Talk on it. So what we'll do is put some WD-40 in that.
Are you allowed to put that in there? I mean, it's a combustion chamber. Right?
This isn't going where it's supposed to.
Put that in.
All right, second try.
No, did they go in backwards? Did they thread in backwards? Something new.
Starting to question myself as to whether I'm turning it the wrong way.
So we're just having a hell of a time getting the socket back out.
Now the socket might be stuck this time because it's seized with some of the bits of ceramic, which, you know, by this point have probably broken.
Okay, so we got the socket back out, and now have a look in here. We've got a broken plug. So we're gonna carefully clean all that out. And it doesn't look rusted down in there, so I don't know why we're having such a hard time turning it, but anyways, here we go.
My eyes aren't adjusted. Oh yeah, it's like the whole side of it, the ceramic's blown off, eh?
Yeah.
So, you know, we're not thrilled with this. This should have been an easy thing to do. And now we're into having to pick these little bits out.
There's the GK
And
from
GK?
yeah.
So I mean, we're gonna replace all of them?
Yeah, well, we're stuck out here in the rain now. This is really unfortunate.
We may not even be able to get the spark plugs today. The guy said depending on where it's coming from, it can take 2 days.
Well,
I mean,
that's
we
just
have-
one place.
Yeah, I know.
I need like really long. Can't use a magnet because it's ceramic.
So, it's going to dawn on me shortly that the valve cover has to come off.
I guess we can use some kind of sticky, lubey stuff, maybe. I'm gonna be really careful about that, but
I got to admit, I sort of had some
Can you reach
fun.
the socket yet? Like the nut, the hex nut of the spark plug? Now that there's nothing in the way? Or
well, I don't know what the problem is. I do not know. And I don't want to open that and let the stuff down in. I can't have the ceramic from the plug falling down inside. So that's got to be all quite clean.
So should I call the Mazda dealership and talk to one of the mechanics?
What's that gonna do?
Well, and ask him his advice on how to get the bits out of there. Say, have you ever come across an exploded spark plug?
Of course I have.
Okay, so what's the best way to remove?
You're not gonna call and bother a Mazda tech about that.
So I was really determined to make sure that this was super clean and that I didn't disturb anything or make the mess worse. You know, I'm already into more than I thought I would have to be doing here. So you saw a pipe cleaner, and then you saw some kind of piece of steel rod that is hollow that I packed with a bit of grease that is now picking up the little bits of ceramic. And
So this is painful, but we're gonna have to go ahead and take the cylinder head right off today.
yeah,
So here we go.
it's kind of like the first 90% of the bits came out easily, you know, in 10% of the time, and then get the last 10% out took 90% of the time. So here we go. You can see the light changing now. I think what happened there is now it's afternoon. I went to work and I'm back from work now, and you know, so I packed it in that morning when I knew the valve cover had to come off, and that's too bad. I planned on driving it later that day. And so now I've gone around, and here we're taking the valve cover bolts off, which are pretty cool.
Oily there.
That's not oil, that's all the penetrating fluid that I have hit them with.
Here's what we're looking at there.
So this is just a look for people that are not as experienced with this. That's what these guys look like.
One I've... Ooh.
I recommend hitting them all.
That's one I've loosened but haven't removed yet. Here's what it looks like to remove it. It really doesn't want to come. I can't even do it. I need more leverage. This one.
There we go.
Here's what the rest of them look like here.
So you saw there, we've got a box. We keep everything well organized and even marked.
So we'll clean those up.
In case you can't get back to it that day, you know, it's hard to remember things. So everything's in order. Every piece is in order. And I want it to just go back together like Lego. So that's hard to do from memory if you just throw it all in a bag. Yeah, so we go around, we hit them all with penetrating fluid, and then we crack them all. And then they have these collars on them, so you have to put quite a bit of pull on them before they pop up, and then they pop up. So we have an unfortunate... There it is. It happened. Groan. So that one cost me later. That one cost me a couple hours. The day that I eventually find that and get it out, it's because the sun had moved around enough, and I had removed... well, you'll see it in a video at a later day. So there'll be a video on just that, maybe. Because I do clean a few of the other things in the engine bay here on that day while I'm, you know, pulling things off, looking for this stupid valve cover bolt. So... anyways, we got these things up. I'm blocking those. I don't want stuff flying around. I'm kind of happy I did it. You know, I was interested to see what it looked like, at least inside the valve cover. And so I was happy to see, as you will shortly, that it's very clean under there. We just got to get these things, well, just tidied up. I don't want anything falling in. Get everything out of the way. And here we're prying it up. And here it comes.
Okay, you can go slow. Here. Wow.
No sludge, really.
It looks awesome.
Even this bottom looks good.
Careful, Leon. Okay, can you bring it here and just put it... Watch out for that. There's the cap. There's the hole for the sensor. There's that other sensor. It looks very good. Everything looks very good here.
No sludge. It looks amazing. So look, Leanne, you were asking about stuff. Here's some gasket crap. There is some gasket crap.
Oh, from the screws that you removed?
No, it's you put that in to stick a gasket in. So there are spots that each I don't know why, but mechanics argue about, like, should you put it all over? Should you put it in just certain spots? Should you put it in other spots? Whatever. And now here we can see my problem with the spark plug. So look at that crap down in there.
Yeah.
So now we've got space to work.
Yeah, the video really makes it, and I'm zoomed in here, makes it look like there's a lot of space. I said space to work. There's a lot more space to work now with the valve cover off. But that's a tight space, and there's an optical illusion happening there where it looks like it's near the surface, but I gotta get my fingers all the way in and then be reaching all the way down with that Q-tip. So eventually, you know, the Q-tip has a little bit of grease on it. I'm picking little bits up.
Ha ha ha.
There we go. I had to, you know, stick that with grease and pull it up and stick it to the wall on the inside of the engine there. And eventually here I'm going to make a little tool out of a guitar string. More little bits. Each one of those little bits had to work for those. Those took minutes, so I was all pleased with myself when I'd get a bit out. When I get a big one. It was like fishing. There we go. Anyways. And so here's the guitar string. So now that I've gotten all the pieces that are visible, I'm kind of shaping the end of this guitar string to make an angled hook. And I'm underneath the what do you call the hex part of the spark plug? Anyways, to try to get underneath that and just pull out anything else that might be there. And it was a perfect fit. So by the end of this, I'm very confident that there's nothing in the way and prepared to remove the plug. Which again is still seems to be seized, right? And so these were really over tightened by some jerk. I don't know. This is why you should work on your own cars.
Louise, Louise.
I mean,
So now,
you could
maybe what
you could pay somebody, but
blast that and blast it out. But I got sure so I could get it out. You know?
Yeah, what if it sprays elsewhere though?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'm considering taking a big piece of saran wrap and putting a hole in it, or driving it down in there, and then just opening up a hole in that spot. Does that seem like a smart idea? Seems like a smart idea to me.
Yeah, I don't get it.
I'm gonna take a big old piece of this.
There seems to be a couple small pieces that you can't really get out there, eh? Maybe with the pipe cleaner, but
yeah.
down in there.
So that hook that I made,
Oh, I see. Blocking everything else with saran wrap so that you can.
you were able to kind of like move them up a little bit
Yep.
Okay, where do you want your tea?
and
Just
out
put
of
it
the
on ground
bottom
here.
of the bowl-like part and into view, but then you still couldn't like pull them up. And they were kind of greasy in there because, not greasy, but lubricated, and I couldn't stick them. So we get in there with some air and we blow them out. We do this process again with the saran wrap. And yeah, I was saying, you know, this is why, you know, for people that aren't doing the work on their own, this is what the Mazda techs are good for. They know offhand the torque specs for everything usually. They're familiar with the shop manuals for these, and I would expect them. I guess I don't believe that they always would, but I would expect them to consult or know things like what the torque spec is for the spark plugs in this vehicle. Whereas obviously the douchebag who changed these plugs and changed the coil for number 1, didn't really know what he was doing and over-torqued these like mad, because the torque spec for this is just 10 foot-pounds, which is nothing. And we see, after I get this out, which is not tonight, it's the next morning, we see that there's no rust. There's no bonding. It's just over tight.
So here's where we are. We've put a bunch of penetrant in there. These ones are good. 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 Everything's nice. We've gotten all the ceramic out. So we're just gonna pop the cover back on and call it a night and let the penetrant do its thing. Patience.
So here we are next morning. Just wicking up all the penetrant. I don't really want anything to leak down into the cylinder if I can avoid it.
If this penetrating fluid did its job last night.
Probably be fine if it did, but
Or spray some more. Let it keep working.
it's such slippery stuff that it might carry. Just gentle. Just to create some shock. And so, here we go.
Jesus.
Now, this is my weaker side.
Oh. Yes, 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 yes.
So we're nearly 24 hours later after this video started. I don't know how many actual hours we're into this job, but we get a good look at everything. We see that the engine is good.
So
Here's the spark plug.
it's hard to say if the cylinder misfire.
We're gonna get another picture of the spark plug here. It didn't look great. Well, the spark plug looked old. It's probably quite a few years old, and maybe it's an original one.
Pretty
I
clean.
kinda don't think so.
Cleaned it out of all the ceramic bullshit, it looks like.
So here is the offending spark plug. And we can see there's a bit of blackening on there. All blackened. There was some orange around the base of the ceramic, showing its age. And maybe all along it was cracked. You know, I don't know. I don't know what was going on there, but there it is. That's day 13 and the first half of day 14. And let's see what's next.